Okay, where are we? We are live. Awesome. Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday, the 12th of March, and I'm finally doing it. I've been dreading this and putting this off for some time, but we are finally going to do it. We are going to dig into Claude Code, and I'm going to be showing you how to set up Claude Code. We're going to be starting from the beginning. This is intended to be a very beginner level introduction to help people who have heard about Claude Code, who are feeling a bit left out and want to get involved, but they feel that it is too technical for them. So I'm going to be walking you through step by step how we can get Claude Code set up. This will be very basic level, and then from here I'm going to do additional presentations on how we actually make our use of Claude Code more sophisticated. But first we need to start. So for people who are already using Claude Code, this is probably going to be old hat, fair warning. For people who have heard amazing things about it, but they run into well, the immediate installation wall of how the hell do I get this, like where do I find Claude Code, how do I use it, what the hell is a GitHub repo, how do I deploy, etc. This is going to be exactly for you. And I've been putting this off because it's a big complicated topic and simplifying it is quite tricky, but it is time and we are finally going to cover it. So Claude Code for non-coders, a gentle introduction to building your own tools. All of this will be in the newsletter tomorrow. If you go to aiwithkyle.com, you'll be able to join up and get a copy of this. And I'll break it down and give you a step-by-step as well, so you can follow through without having to watch this live stream. So hopefully that's useful for you. You can tell I'm prevaricating, I'm stalling, because this is going to be a complex one. But here we go, let's go for it. So Claude Code for non-coders. Claude Code, the name itself makes it intimidating. It's got the word code in it. However, you can use Claude Code, and you should be using Claude Code even if you are not a coder, even if you are not a developer. In fact, I talk to a lot of developers, and increasingly they're not writing their own code. Claude Code is doing it for them, and Claude Code is actually being used inside of Anthropic to produce things like Claude Cowork. Was 100% created using Claude Code. Increasingly, you don't necessarily need to have to type the code in. Those days are gone. Yes, 100% is useful, knowing how to program, but the AI is getting better and better and better, so there is no need for you to sit down and learn Python anymore. That is a big statement, and there will be a lot of people who will be very angry with it, but I think that is the direction we're heading in, thanks to tools like Claude Code. So you, as somebody who is not a coder, not a programmer, can also jump in and get a piece of the action. What we're going to be doing is talking. We're going to be talking to our AI, to Claude Code, and it is going to build for us. If you have used ChatGPT, if you have used Claude, you have the basics of how we work with this tool. It's just the task that we're going to be working on is more complex. It's not going to be doing research for us. It's not going to be having a conversation about our ideas. It's going to be building. It is going to be creating for us. So it goes beyond just a conversation to actually creating something real. And I'm going to show you how to make your first toy project. And then from there, like literally the sky is your limit. The things that people are doing with this tool are mind-blowing, but we need to get you using it. We need to get you over that first hurdle. So the problem with Claude Code is that a lot of people think it's very technical, and it can be, but we're just going to break through that. Okay. Now you might be thinking, well, I don't want to build applications. I don't want to build desktop apps. I don't need to build a whole CRM or anything like that. That's absolutely fine. What we're going to be doing, especially early days, is you're just going to be building little tools to help yourself. So a quick example, because I do social media, I want to know what other people are doing in my space, and what kind of topics they're covering, what hooks they're using. I want to get their scripts, ideally, so I can see how they're saying it. So there are commercial tools out there that I can use. They're not cheap. They're a couple $100 a month that would go and get me all of that information, or maybe I could hire a virtual assistant for a couple of $1,000s a month to gather that information up for me, or I could use AI to build myself a little micro tool that I'm going to use to go and grab all those videos, grab the transcripts from them, look at the follower numbers, look at the engagement levels, and then bring back to me a report that says, hey, these are the topics that are doing really well in your niche. These are the people covering it. This is how they've framed it based on what I know about you. Maybe you could do it in this way. That is a micro tool I can make for myself I have made for myself in a couple of hours, which adds a huge amount of value to my business. That is just one example. What you can do with Claude Code is build things that are going to help you in your daily life, things that are going to help you in your business and in general. They don't need to be things that you are going to deploy into an app. It doesn't have to go on the iPhone App Store. Absolutely it can, but you need to start with thinking, well, what would be useful for me? Because Claude Code will be able to help you there. Yes, sure, you can build the next billion-dollar app, but do that next month, right? Focus on solving your daily annoyances first, and that's a really good way to cut your teeth on using Claude Code. Now, if you have tried to use Claude Code before and got intimidated, it's probably because of this website. So this is the quick start guide for Claude Code. It's like, welcome to Claude Code. The quick start guide will have you using AI-powered coding assistance in a few minutes. Exciting. By the end, you'll understand how to use Claude Code for common development tasks. Awesome. Before you begin, make sure you have a terminal or command prompt open. What? Okay. Code project to work with. Okay. And a Claude subscription. That's fine. Claude console. Ooh, what's that? Or a supported cloud provider. Don't know what that is. So already, if you're non-technical, you might be looking at this being like, what the hell's terminal? I don't know what terminal is. Then you get to here. It's like, okay, step 1, install Claude Code. To install Claude Code, use one of the following methods. Native install, curl-fssl, https, the URL here, pipe, and then bash. What the hell? Or maybe you click on homebrew and you're like, okay, brew, install, cask, Claude Code. What the hell? So what's beer got to do with it? This is the official installation instructions from Claude Code. It doesn't get any better here with winget, for example. So this is step 1 normally, which for a lot of people, they see that and they're like, oh, well, this isn't for me. This is too technical. I will not be able to use Claude Code, and they leave. That's a shame. And Anthropic need to do a bit better with this, because that shouldn't be the first thing that you see. Now, there are other ways to do it. And I'm going to show you how we can skip all of this complicated looking terminal stuff. The terminal is something that you will 100% learn on your journey as somebody who's now creating software. But to start there is not the best place, because it looks like this. It looks like something from the Matrix. It looks terrifying. And that shouldn't be something you have to deal with to get access to Claude Code. So there's a couple of entry points that we're going to follow. First up is via the web application. So you can literally go to claude.ai, or you can do it on your telephone. And then there is a tab called Code. Now, if I click on it, unfortunately, it pops up a desktop version. But this tab here is Code. Let me show it to you on the phone as well. If I can find my Claude app, there it is. So on the telephone, you're going to find, I'm not going to be able to get it in focus. We'll be able to get it in focus. Yes, there we go. You could, nope. It's too good at focusing on me. There is a tab here which says Code, and you are going to go ahead and click on that, and that is going to take you into the web interface. Now, that's kind of cool because you can do it from your telephone, or you can do it from the application itself. In here, Code, again, that's not going to work for me, but it is kind of limited. So without going into the details, Claude Code works in different harnesses. One of them is the web application. It's probably the weakest of the lot. However, it's one click and you can get using it immediately. You can also use it on your telephone, which is awesome because you can code on the go. Or sorry, when I say code, you can respond to questions. You can continue to adjust your project on the go. If you have an idea, you can quickly talk to code and you can get it to implement things. Very, very, very cool. So that's one way in. The next one, and the one that I actually recommend, is using the desktop app. So they have a Claude desktop app, which has Claude Chat, Claude Cowork, and Claude Code all in one. In fact, I'll show you what that looks like. I click on here, boom, there we go. This is the application. So it's got my chat interface, it's got my Cowork interface, which I did a presentation on yesterday, and it has my code interface, and you can switch between them. This is the way that I recommend you doing it. This is going to give you more power than doing it on the web version, but it's still in a nice graphical user interface. You're going to be able to get started without having to deal with the terminal. That is the important thing right now. And I know there'll be people in chat being like, wow, the most powerful way to do it is through the terminal. I know. That's not what we're doing right now, though. We're giving people a beginner's guide. So don't come at me with their, well, command line interface is the best way to do it. I agree, but not for now. And then the third way we can do it is through something called an IDE, basically a developer environment. And then you're going to set up a plugin. So I personally use Cursor. Cursor is not free. So what I'll show you is a free version, which is VS Code, Visual Studio, which is an open source AI code editor. You can download it. That is entirely free. And then you can get an extension. There we go. Claude Code for VS Code. And that is going to plug Claude Code into your VS Code and give you a way to talk to Claude inside of VS Code. You can also use Cursor. I personally use Cursor. Cursor is not free. I think it's 20 a month. So 20 a month for Cursor. That gives you access to other models as well, but you can also add Cursor, Claude Code. You can also add Claude Code into Cursor as well. So that gives you different options. So you have the ability to use the Cursor models, plus confusingly you can use Opus and Sonnet, the Claude models, inside of Cursor, but you can also use Claude Code. The reason you want to use Claude Code is, again, without getting into the details, the harness. It is an incredibly powerful agentic system that is able to understand what you want and turn that into action. So that, rather than the model, it is everything built around the model that allows it to carry out our tasks. That's what we're interested in here. So Claude is, these are the different ways to get access. Of these three, web, desktop, app and VS Code, I would recommend the desktop app. So for that, just head to claude.com/download, and then you'll be able to download it on Mac or Windows. Don't see a Linux. If you're messing around with Linux, you probably don't need this guide anyway. You know how to set up Claude Code yourself. So this isn't for you if you're on Linux. Okay, so that means we're in. We've got in. You will need to link it to your Claude account. We have to be realistic here. Okay, you can only use Claude Code on a paid account. So the minimum is going to be $20 a month. $20 a month on a pro account is going to be enough to get you started. It's enough to play around, kick the tires and see if this is for you. You will find, if you're starting to use Claude Code, and if you're anything like me or all the people that I've showed Claude Code to, you'll get, the bug will bite you and you will be thinking, ooh, I could build this, I could build this. Oh, maybe I wonder if I can build this. The answer to all of this is yes, 100% you can build everything. If that bug bites you, you're going to hit limits. So realistically, you're looking at the $100, £100 a month max plan that will allow you to basically code all day. It's an incredibly, you get a lot of usage at 100, whereas at 20, you're going to run into limitations. But however, start with 20 a month, see how it goes, see what you're building, see if you can build stuff that's going to make you money. You can, 100%, and then potentially look to moving to the max plan if that works for you. I'm not sponsored by Anthropic. I don't get any money for saying this. This is purely the realistic situation that you're going to be in. At $20 a month, you will hit limits eventually, but start there. Okay. Now, once you open up GitHub, it's going to be asking you for things. So I'll actually show you, not GitHub. I'm going to be talking about GitHub in a moment. Let's say we start a new session. This is what a new session looks like in Claude Code on the desktop app. So we've got this little dude down here, and then we have a chat interface. We are mainly going to be chatting to Claude Code in the same way that we chat to ChatGPT, but it's going to actually build stuff for us. And then we have our chat area up here. A couple of things though. You'll see at the bottom, there is this, this is like where I am building. There's this little icon here of a cat, followed by my, well, this is a repo. I'll talk about what this is in a moment, and the name of the repo. So this is the AI Brain Vault. That's kind of my default. That's where I do a lot of my work. And then it's got branch. So this is connected to something called GitHub. GitHub is, the simplest way to describe GitHub is basically, it's like a cloud storage service for your project. So if you use Google Drive, if you use Dropbox, it's kind of like that, but your code is going to sit inside of this repo. This repo as in repository. This is a folder, a set of folders that are sitting on a cloud server inside of GitHub, which allows you to do a lot of things. To, yes, keep a safe copy of your repo, of your software that you're building, but it also allows you to connect it to different tools. So I could have, and I do have, my repo connected to Claude Code. I have it connected to Cursor. I have it connected to Codex. I might have it connected to VS Code. I'll also later have it connected to however I'm deploying it. Now, deploying here means how do I actually get it on the web? So let's say I build a website like aiwithkyle.com. The code for this is sitting in a GitHub repo, and then I send that code to a deployment service. In this case, I use something called Vercel, and Vercel will host it and show it to the world in this way. The reason we use GitHub is basically cloud storage, but also version control. It allows us to roll back changes. It allows us to keep track of the code as we make changes to it. And importantly, if you had other developers working on this, let's say everybody's working out the same code base. If you're all working on it at the same time, you're going to bump into each other, and one person will change something that's going to cascade errors down to break something else, and it's all just going to be an absolute mess. So in the same way that when you work out of a Google Sheet, you can all kind of change things around, and you can potentially break it in that way. What we're doing with GitHub is we're separating out those branches. People can work on their own branches, and then you commit them, you bring them and merge them in to your main branch later, once you know it's going to be safe. So the reason we're using it is mainly for storage and for version control, but it allows you to scale up and work with a larger team as well. It is also the way that that Claude Code and most of these services work. So you're going to connect it. So what you can do is you can connect it to a local folder. So what I can do is create a folder called test repo. That's just going to be sitting on my computer. So this now has, that's weird, that did not connect to the right one. Here we go. Test repo. I've just made, it's bugging. It's very strange. Let's see if I can do that again. Claude Code. Can't even type. Claude Code test. Okay, open. That's going to a different folder. I'm not going to worry about that too much because I've already put together a repo. But you're going to make a folder. You can connect that to GitHub, or you can have it on your local computer. Doesn't really matter for now. And then you're going to be able to talk to Claude Code and begin your project. So I've actually gone ahead and done that. I did one off stream, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a very basic command like this: build me a Space Invader game as a web app. That's it. Now, I'm not going to make you watch it in real time because it takes a few minutes for it to build, but I did this prior to the live. I said, please make me a Space Invader. Please make a Space Invaders game for me, web app. I've added web app here just to clarify to it that I want it to work in the browser. It's going to be playable in Chrome rather than on my telephone or a desktop application. By default, it's going to build a web app, but I just wanted to force it. And then it will go ahead and it will say, oh, I found your repo. So test Claude Code. Good, I'm in the correct branch. Let me build that Space Invader game. And then we can trace what it's been doing. So updated to-do list. Creating Space Invader game was the first to do, so that's pretty easy. So this is a very non-detailed list. We'll talk about this in a moment and how we move on to more sophisticated projects. But it basically knew how to do that in one shot. So created Space Invader game, committed and pushed branch. So your Space Invaders game is ready. Open index.html in a browser to play. How to play, it gives me instructions. There are 3 types of invaders. So we will hop on over. I haven't actually tried it, so this could go horribly wrong. I'm going to hop on over to the game it made for me. There we go. Space Invaders. I even called it Space Invaders, which you probably shouldn't. I don't know if there's sound. Press enter or click to start. There we go. So space is shoot. I can shoot at the aliens. Are they breaking the blocks when they hit them? I assume so. Can I shoot through? Oh, I can break my own blocks. So this was made by Claude Code in a few minutes off the instruction, please make me a Space Invader game. Now, obviously this is literally a toy, but I could have said I want to make a little application that helps me keep track of people who reach out to me on LinkedIn, and sorry, I've got obsessed with finishing this game. People who reach out to me with LinkedIn, find their information and rate them by who I should talk to, level 2. There we go. So my Space Invader game works. Oh, there's different versions. I'm going to stop playing Space Invaders live on stream and let myself die. Now, if I wanted to change that game, I just go to Claude Code and I say, hey, actually, I think the Space Invader icons, they should be little cats. They should be cute little cats, and when they shoot, they make a meow noise. It will go ahead and it will create that for me. So I'm not writing code. I don't even know what this is built in, honestly. Probably should. But I can then just make changes in that way using natural language. Obviously, this is a toy, but you can see the power of it. What trips people up at this point is once you've built something in Claude Code doesn't give you an easy way to preview it, an easy way to play around with it. So what I've had to do is do something called deployment, and I've had to deploy it onto a local host. That basically means that on my computer, in the background, it has spun up a mini server, and it's loaded the files onto this mini server, and then it allows me to access them. So I access them through a URL, which allows me to access and run that information. So this is why things like Lovable, Replit, Bolt, V0, etc. are actually better for absolute beginners, because they deal with that deployment yourself. So in Lovable, you will type in what you want, it will build that, and then it will show you a preview directly. Claude Code won't do that by default. So you either need to install like a plugin to make it give you a preview pane, or you need to spin up a local host server. The great thing is, though, if you don't know how to do that, you just ask Claude. So this is probably the biggest unlock. It will say to you something like, hey, I've made you a Space Invaders game, just open index.html in a browser to play. And from that, if you have no idea how to do that, you just say to Claude Code, I don't know what that means. Can you please help me? That's the biggest unlock in terms of our behavior. Because previously we might have to, go on the web, go to, God forbid, Stack Overflow and ask, how do I do this? Now you can just ask AI. And if it says something like, oh, you just need to spin up a local host and run it in localhost :3000, and you're like, I don't know what that means, you just tell Claude Code and it'll be like, oh, sorry, and it will help you work out what you need to do. So yes, you're going to run into barriers. Yes, you're going to hit things where it doesn't make any sense. You're going to hit bugs, you're going to hit problems. You just ask the AI for the next step, and that's going to allow you to unblock them very, very quickly. So from here, you direct the AI, you poke around. So you're going to play your Space Invader game. You're going to think, okay, these are parts of it that don't work. These are things that we could improve. And then you just go back to your AI and you provide that information. Obviously, if you were doing a proper project, you'd have to start prioritizing what you want to fix. Like maybe it's fully open and anybody can access anyone's data, regardless of who's logged in. So you want to set up proper authorization, you want to set up proper user names, passwords, authorization via Google, for example. That's going to be a higher priority than fixing the color of the header, for example. So that's when we start to get into the project management of it all. And that, as a human being, that's what you're going to be doing increasingly, is working out what needs to be fixed, what needs to be created, what features do we need to add, what do we need to remove, what do we need to harden up. You become a builder, but you do that through natural language. So that brings us to the next point, which is, how do you build on this? What I wanted to show you today is just how to get started with Claude Code, how to build your first toy project and how to see it. Now that's fine, but when you want to actually build something, especially something you're going to be using on a daily basis or potentially even packaging up and selling, we need a progression pathway. So the first thing you need to learn how to do, and I'm not covering it in this presentation, is how to structure a project. Thankfully, you can actually talk to Claude about this. You can get it to interview you and say, hey, this is the project that I want to work on. Can you help me put together a project plan? Can you help me structure the project inside of Claude Code? And it will help you with that process. Again, that's a massive unlocked. So it will help you create things like claude.md, the markdown file. It knows the best practices to structure and plan itself. So that's what we're going to start doing when we work on larger projects. You also need to learn how to deploy. So I showed you very briefly how we would deploy on localhost, and that's how I managed to get Space Invaders running. Oh, I'm about to lose. Space Invaders running on my local computer. But if you want people to be able to use it, then you're going to have to deploy it on a web server. So that's something you need oh, got game over. Something that you will need to learn. So that is going to be the next step. I personally use Vercel. You could use Netlify. There are many, many different hosts. You're also going to learn how to add a backend. So this right here, this is basically a flat file. It's a bit of code which loads up in a browser. Very, very basic. Let's say, however, you're building a web app and you want different people to be able to access it. Then you're going to need a database sitting in the background that has their usernames, it has their passwords, it has their credentials, it has their progress through your application, etc., etc., all in a secure container. For that, we use backend services. I personally use Supabase. There's also Firebase. There are many, many alternatives here. But these are all different stages, all different things that you're going to be learning along the way. As you start to build and as you start to create more complex applications. A lot of people will try to do all of this immediately, right out of the gate. That just means you're more likely to run into problems and not be able to build something immediately, like this Space Invader game, which shows you the power of vibe coding and agentic engineer. So 100% you will learn all of this, but just get started, just start building, and these things will come quite naturally. I'm thinking about putting together a more structured course, basically starting with Lovable, just to help you get the bug for vibe coding, moving you on to Claude Code, helping you learn how to structure, plan, deploy, expand, and moving on from there. But for now, just start playing around. This is the stack that I personally use. Supabase for my backend storage, Vercel for my deployment and hosting, and then Claude Code does all of the development and sits in between. So I'm going to stop there because otherwise it's very tempting to talk about all the ways we can extend this, all the things we can do. I will quickly talk about something interesting though, which is if you do see somebody talking about Claude Code and you're like, oh, that's such a, how are they doing that? That is so cool. A lot of the time, you can just give that information to Claude Code and say, hey, I want to do this. So recently I saw one where a guy was saying, I'm using Claude Code to create motion graphics. And I was like, oh, I can make motion graphics explaining AI concepts. That would be really cool. So he had published this article about how he got Claude Code to do it, how he set it up, what he connected. So I was able to copy that whole article into Claude Code and say, hey, I want to do this. Read the article. And it was able to use that to work out the project plan. So that is, again, it's a massive unlock. If you see someone doing something cool with Claude Code, you can just duplicate it. So here's an example from Gary Tan, who is the president and CEO of Y Combinator. What he's done, he has his Claude Code set up to help him work on business ideas. And what he's done is created something called GStack, Gary Stack, I guess, which is a fast headless browser command line interface for AI coding agents. Ignore all of that. So this allows you to create business ideas and to start building products. And I'll show you what it looks like. So it has 6 opinionated tools that serve as CEO, engineering manager, release manager, and QA engineer. It's basically a team of AIs that's going to work for you, and it all looks very complicated. But I'll show you why it's simple. GStack turns Claude Code from one generic assistant into a team of specialists you can summon on demand. 6 opinionated workflow skills for Claude Code: plan review, code review, one command shipping, browser automation, and engineering retrospects, all as slash commands. So it gives you a founder, CEO, an engineering manager, a paranoid staff engineer, a release engineer, a QA engineer, and an engineering manager. It basically gives you a team of people who are going to work on your product. They're going to work on the tool for you. So what you can do, this all seems very complicated. This all like, oh God, there's all these files. What the hell is what is GitHub? Like, how do I get this? All you're going to do is, here we go. Installment, open Claude Code and paste this. So you're going to grab this, and you're going to chuck it into Claude Code. I'll do it in here. And Claude Code will go and read the information about Gary's G stack. It will work out what it needs to do, and it will process all of that for you. So anytime you see an idea like this or something that someone else has built, that's all we need to do when it comes to Claude Code. We literally just need to provide it the information, and it will work everything out itself. So what's it doing? Let me check if there's an existing Claude MD to update. Oh, this is a test repo, so I hadn't set any of that up. So that's going to go ahead and do all of that for me. And that will basically build Gary Tan's G stack inside of this project for me. And you can do this with anything. This is useful. This is the question mode. So it's asking me questions and helping me work out. If you do not know, tell it. You can say, type something else, and you can say, I don't know what you are talking about. Explain first. And that will force it into a mode where it's just going to tell you what is going on. So if it's ever asking you questions and you're like, I'm out of my league here, just tell Claude Code, and it will be able to help you through. You can also, if something is really confusing in here, you can basically grab your whole discussion with Claude Code and then hop over to Claude Chat, paste it all in and say, what's going on here? Like, explain this to me. I want to learn how this works. This is important, but I don't understand it. So can you help me work this out? 100% you can do that. So there we go. GStack is installed. So I can now talk to Gary Tan's staff of engineers and use this to build products and to analyze products. And as an engineering team, obviously this is probably overkill for my Space Invaders game, but if I was building something for something I was going to sell as part of my business, very, very cool. Okay, I promised I wasn't going to get overly excited and start looking at cool stuff. Awesome. Hopefully that was useful, and I'm hoping even if one or two of you start using Claude Code off the back of this, start playing around with it, fantastic. That makes me very happy because it is very cool. And if you do, come and tell me. I know Lyra started using it and has been in chat saying how wonderful it is. It really is. This whole guide plus a PDF version of it, I'll give you the slide decks, I'll give you a PDF step-by-step rundown as well, will be available in the newsletter tomorrow, Friday's issue. You can join up at aiwithkyle.com. We are getting insane amounts of email signups right now. Yesterday was 400 emails. Today it's already at 200. So it's really rocking and rolling. So thank you guys, people who have signed up. That will also give you access to a bunch of courses. There's one about how to start a business using artificial intelligence, something that's really, really important right now because jobs are looking less permanent than they used to be, let's put it that way. And also how to give AI workshops to businesses, which right now is a really good way to make money, and there's a massive amount of demand for it. There's a free course on that there, and just a whole bunch of other stuff over on the website. That's at aiwithkyle.com. That's the end of this presentation. I'm now going to switch over to questions. Thank you guys for being patient and hanging out, but hopefully that was useful. Is code only available on the paid versions? Yes, it's only on the paid versions. You have to the $20 a month for minimum, but as I mentioned, you're going to run into limits pretty quickly on the $20 a month. So realistically, if you're building for your business, it's probably going to be $100 a month. Kyle, I saw your video the other day comparing GPT to Claude. One makes you feel productive, one makes you productive. Yes, I stand by that. I'm concerned about the hard limits. I can afford 100 or 200, but can't justify it to my wife. Yeah, it's a lot of money. If you are using Claude primarily for chatting, $20 a month is fine, £20 a month is fine. It's only when you move into coding, if you're using Claude Code, you might need the 100 or the 200, probably the $100 a month. That said, once you're on it, the usage limits are very generous. Basically, Claude don't want free users. They don't really even want the $20 a month users. They want people who are building, they want people who are coding, because that's a more dependable revenue source. Fascinatingly, the revenues of Anthropic are almost the same. They're a little lower, but almost the same as the revenues of OpenAI, despite OpenAI having about 30 times more users. OpenAI's got about 900 million users, so nearly 1 billion, a significant proportion of humanity, whereas Anthropic has, we think, about 30 or 40 million users. So it's a much smaller user base, but they actually pay, and they're happy to pay $100 a month. Unlike the ChatGPT user base, which is mainly free. I think they have a very small percentage that pay. Whenever I develop Codex, I always ask it to build with a Docker. Yep, to deploy. Much easier. Yeah. So there is an alternative, a really good alternative, and I didn't talk about it today because I was talking about Claude Code, but ChatGPT Codex, really good. Really, really good. So the Codex app in particular, this one here, is similar to Claude Code. The Codex app, which I think is now on Windows as well. It was a bit late, but I think they released it on Windows. Oh, look at that. Cheeky. I put Codex app Windows and Claude has an advert for Claude Code. The Codex app, here we go, is now on Windows. I'm pretty sure it is. So highly rate this. 5.3 and 5.4 Codex are fantastic, really, really good. This is much cheaper. So on the $20 a month plan with ChatGPT, you're going to get a lot of usage of Codex. Very rarely would you need to upgrade to the $100 a month, $200 a month. They don't have $100. And up until April, so for at least a few more weeks, there's double usage in Codex as well. So Codex is an alternative, a very good alternative. If you have no money and you want to get into vibe coding, then it's going to be Anti-Gravity. So Anti-Gravity is an IDE. It's a development environment that will sit on your computer. The price is $0 a month, which is kind of a hard to argue with price. And that's going to give you access to Gemini 3.1 Pro, Gemini 3 Flash, Claude Sonnet and Opus 4.6. Not Claude Code, but Claude Sonnet. So Claude Code is the harness around the Claude models. This is just giving you access to the Claude models, but not the harness. However, they're still pretty good. And GPT OSS, which is the open source version of ChatGPT, which is not very good. But this, for the grand price of $0 a month, this is hard to beat. So this is Google Anti-Gravity. Is it as good as Claude Code? No. But it's also not $100 a month. So at the price, pretty good. Thanks for answering. Really enjoying your work. Thank you, Dave. Right, let's have a look. So many questions. Morning, Nikki. So I'm just Claude console, command line interface. Could you use Anti-Gravity? Craig is saying, yeah. Yes, and you can also put Claude Code into Anti-Gravity as well. In the same way you can put Claude Code into VS Code and to Cursor. And Anti-Gravity is solid. It's good. Anti-Gravity is basically VS Code. They're all basically VS Code. Nothing wrong with that. I have Google write me code that I put into the Claude command line interface. So I didn't talk about the command line interface primarily because I wanted to keep this beginner friendly. But the most powerful way to use Claude is through the command line. That kind of strips away all of the cruft around it and it gives you direct access, but it's also the least user friendly, which is why I didn't talk about it today. But as you progress, as you start using Claude more and more, as you become more comfortable and you kind of move up this this gradient of learning, then 100% you can start messing around with more powerful iterations of it. I think the important thing is don't aim for the perfect, just aim for something that's good, that gets you started. You don't need the best setup. You can ignore all those people on Twitter who are like, you're using this wrong. Just ignore them. Just use it, play around with it, build stuff that's useful for you, immediately useful for you, and catch the bug. So once you've caught that bug and you're like, oh, wow, I can do amazing things with this, you're going to naturally want to learn more. And you'll suddenly have a kind of a scaffolding for all of this new information to fit into, because you're working on actual projects that you want to build. If you just learn this stuff abstractly, like a lot of people do with coding, because it's not connected to something you're building, that information will go in and then come back out. If you are building something and you are using the information that you're learning, then naturally it's going to be more embedded and it will become a skill. So just start building. This is what I always say to computer science. I get a lot of people who are doing computer science degrees right now, and they're asking me what they should do, which is a question above my pay grade, but I basically say you need to start building, create stuff. This is an incredibly exciting time to be able to build. Do you still use Cursor often? No. I love Cursor, and it's a great team and they're doing amazing things, but no, I just use Claude Code directly. So I used to use Claude Code inside of Cursor so that I could see all my file structures. I had the IDE so I could see my files, etc. The contents of the files. Increasingly, I just don't need to. I can just go through Claude Code. Replit Agent 4 came out today. That's pretty dope. Awesome. I haven't used Replit for a while. Usage limits hit pretty quick. Yes, 100%. Now I have to wait 3 hours. Yeah, this is why you need, if you are seriously building, and if you're building for your business, if you're building to sell, you're going to need the $100 a month or the $200 a month plan. But at that point, it becomes a business expense and you should be able to sell more than that. And if that is the case, it's actually quite cheap compared to hiring a coder. It costs a lot of money. The fact that you can now build yourself using something that costs $100 a month is phenomenal. It's not cheap, but the value you get for that $100 is, I can't think of a more powerful $100 a month. Do you use anti-gravity? Do you like it? I don't personally use it. I mean, I have used it. But no, I use Cursor over anti-gravity. But even then, I don't use that. I use Claude Code. Best AI for high-quality filmmaking? I don't know. So AI film, AI imagery, AI music is not something that I'm interested in. I'm not convinced it's a particularly good usage of artificial intelligence. There are a lot of problems associated with it. It's just not something that I cover. So I mainly focus on artificial intelligence for building businesses. And helping people to generate an income, because I think that's going to be really important moving forward. So I don't hold much truck with things like faceless video for YouTube. I think we need less of that, not more of that. For filmmaking, probably seed dance, but this is not my field of expertise, I'm afraid. Been using Runway, but the results are unpredictable. Extra arms and legs, etc. That's rough. I thought we'd got past that point. I do love the old, well, I say old, a couple of years ago, things like Will Smith eating spaghetti and Weird Dale, which was on subreddit, was fantastic. Okay, sorry. The chat's really busy and you guys are just chatting to each other, which is fantastic. I love it. I'm just looking for questions. But you guys are fine. Do you believe upskilling in cloud and AI is worth it? Well, upskilling in AI for sure. It depends what you're trying to do, though. Are you trying to become an engineer? There's going to be a lot of need for them, especially in cloud. Like, there's a lot of cloud services are required. I guess the question for a lot of engineers is how long until the AI is able to complete the task for me. and at that point, how many juniors are needed. So I'm guessing if you're asking, is upskilling needed, that suggests that you're maybe at a junior level. I'd be wary because those are the jobs that are going to be, are already being munched, and it's going to roll up the chain. So I don't know the dynamics of cloud in particular. I'm sure there are people who know a lot more than this, but I would be wary of investing years of my life into learning a skill which might be chomped by artificial intelligence. I have to buy a computer to install this stuff on, says Studio by Doug. So this is where I know people were buying Mac Minis for OpenClaw, which I was absolute overkill. But a Mac Mini is a really good little computer that if you need it running for you, so you can remote into it, so you can have scheduled tasks, etc. I mean, it's $599 for that price. That's $599 is the M4 chip. You get a lot of bang for your buck for 600 quid. You can't go wrong with it, honestly. I have the big boy. I have the M4 Pro with a huge amount of oomph in it. Total overkill. But for $599, just as a mini computer to run this kind of stuff on, to run scheduled tasks on, absolutely fine. Because all the processing for Claude Code is done in the cloud. It's not done on your local computer. You are paying to do it on the cloud. So something like this, really lovely, great little machine. They're probably all sold out because of people buying them for OpenClaw. Oh no, they've got some in London at least. But yeah, can't go wrong. Oh look, 17 quid a month for 36 months. Not bad. Kind of against OpenAI due to their military contributions. So on this, Anthropic, so I know Anthropic have come out as the good guys in this recent Pentagon discussion. They still make weapons. They're still happy to do mass surveillance, just not against Americans. They're still happy to make autonomous weapons, just they want to make sure that they're safe so they don't kill American soldiers. So none of the AI companies, so last summer, 4 AI companies took contracts from the Department of War. XAI, not that surprising, that's Grok. Google, so Google are in on this too. Anthropic and OpenAI, the big 4, they took contracts from the Department of War for weapons, for war, for killing. So yes, recently ChatGPT, OpenAI have taken a lot of flack because Sam Altman very ham-fistedly jumped in and took the Anthropic contract when Anthropic said we have some red lines. And Sam Altman, even in a Twitter MMA afterwards, he kind of said, "Oh yeah, that was a bit hasty. I can see how the optics are bad on that." But all of these companies are taking military contracts. All of these companies are happy, willing to take money to develop AIs that's going to be used to kill people. It's just the red lines were set up because they didn't want to harm Americans. If you're blowing up Russians, if you're blowing up Chinese people, absolutely fine as far as they're concerned. So we mustn't. It's very easy to be like, oh, OpenAI are the bad guys, Anthropic are the good guys. No, no. And I'm saying this because I don't take any sponsorship from any of them. I don't take any sponsorship, in fact, which allows me to, well, speak the truth. I've lost where we are entirely. I wonder if a bunch of people could link to get an enterprise account for cheap. It's probably not worth it, honestly. You could do it, but if you all link up and buy $100 account together, one person's probably just going to rinse it out because there are still limits on the $100 and $200 accounts. So there's always going to be a problem that one of you is just going to go buck wild, spin up 13 different agents, and they're only paying $10 a month, and they'll just take the piss. If you are using this for business, again, it is one of the cheapest investments you can make, and you do need to. I know it's trite, but you do need to spend money to make money, and $100 a month for Claude AI is the best money you can spend. Right, I'm totally overwhelmed by the number of chats. This is awesome, but I'm totally overwhelmed. Oh, can you repeat today? So this video will be on YouTube later, and it will be edited, it will be tidied up. Everything will also be in the newsletter tomorrow. So if you go to aiwithcarl.com, you can sign up for the newsletter. There will be a link to the video, the tidied up version of the video. There will be a PDF guide walking you through, and just like a written summary of everything that's been covered. Gonna block you. We don't use AI for that. How much about AI do you need to know to start teaching? Really interesting question, Emma. If you head to my website and go to aiwithcarl.com, it's the website, then head to courses and then scroll down to AI Workshop Masterclass. I talk about how you can deliver AI workshops. You can charge a couple of $1,000s per hour. I charge about £2,000 an hour, so that's $3,000 roughly. You don't need a PhD in computer science. You don't need, to be a machine learning expert. What you need to do, and there's a video here which walks you through, is you need to be the bridge between the world of artificial intelligence, how you're using AI on a day-to-day, what you've learned to do with artificial intelligence. You need to bridge that into your world. So if you are a vet, you need to talk to other vets about how they should be thinking about AI, what they should use it for, what they shouldn't use it for. That's where you can make a lot of money teaching, is not talking to technical people, but talking to everybody else, the vast majority on earth who need to work out what is going on here. So you can go and talk to lawyers, you can go and talk to accountants, you can go and talk to whoever you have the personal expertise and industry domain knowledge to be able to bridge and interpret what is going on in artificial intelligence into their world. You can get paid very well for doing that. So there was a whole course over here. There's like 5 lessons. I built a bunch of interactive tools for you as well, so you can go through them, talking about how you find that demand, what level of AI knowledge do you need, and it's much lower than you might think, and then how to get over any public speaking fears you have, because I know that's a big block for a lot of people. So I talk about that there. So that is all available in aiwithcarl.com/courses. You can scroll down a little bit, and it's right there. And it's good money, real good money. Thank you, Emma. It's a great question, though. Quantum says, I bought a Raspberry Pi. Got a few over here. There's one. That one's unopened. This is a 0 and 02. And this is a Raspberry Pi 5? I'm not sure. That's 1, 2. And you're saying you're not sure what to use it for. I hook it up to Claude Code or hook it up to an AI. And let the AI take control of it, basically, and then ask, hey, what kind of cool projects can we do? So there's the very standard things that people do, set up things like a Pi hole. Pi holes are really cool, which is a network-wide ad blocking. This will basically block any ads from entering your house. So it's a bit like ad block, but it happens at your router, basically, and it will take all of the adverts that are coming into your house, from YouTube, actually not YouTube, can't do YouTube, from all of these ad networks, and it will basically block them and keep them on your Raspberry Pi. That's really cool. So Pi-hole is a really cool kind of starter project. But hook everything up to Claude Code or Anti-Gravity or whatever, and say, what are the cool things that we can do with this? Let's brainstorm some ideas, and it will help you work on those, which is a lot of fun. You can, I was about to say waste a weekend, but it's not wasted, it's learning. You can you could spend a lot of time playing around with that. Kyle, could Claude Code build an app for iOS and Android? Yep, with users uploading to cloud storage. So that's going to be a different element to the iOS and Android, but yes. Yes, it can definitely produce iOS and Android. In fact, there was That said, Xcode have actually, here we go. So you're going to use this. So if you're doing an iOS app, have a look at this. So using Claude inside of Xcode. This is Sonnet 4. Oh, this is a while ago. Xcode is the tool that you will use to get something ready for launching on the App Store. This is from a while ago. Oh, here we go. Apple's Xcode. This is what I was looking for. Apple's Xcode now supports the Claude Agent SDK. So this makes publishing to the App Store a lot easier because of this. Xcode 26.3 introduces native integration with the Claude Agent SDK, the same underlying harness that powers Claude Code. Amazing. Developers get the full power of Claude Code directly in Xcode, including sub-agents, background tasks, and plugin. Really cool. So you could build in Claude Code initially, then move it over into Xcode and continue using this with Claude Code just to get it packaged up and ready for releasing. But with any of these tasks, sit down with Claude Code and say, what's the question you said? Can I build a phone app, basically? And with cloud storage, ask Claude Code, get it to interview you on your idea. So say, hey, this is what I want to build. What do you need to know from me? How do we structure this? What kind of things do we need to think about? What tools do I need? What's the kind of cost of this, etc.? Just talk to Claude Code about those things. Have it ask you questions. Respond to the questions. You don't even have to type. You can use a microphone like this to chat to it. And then it will be able to use that to create a project plan. You can do that in Claude Code directly, or you can do it in Claude and then port that over into Claude Code. So you do all the interview process, you do all the chatting with Claude, and then say, cool, now I want you to prepare everything that we have discussed. I want you to put it into a project plan that I can take into Claude Code, and Claude Code will be able to structure the project, set up the to-do lists, and work through step by step along the way, build in best practices, etc., etc. So you can use the AI tools to help you work out what you can build with AI, if that makes sense. Very, very powerful method. So it's just scrolling through so many questions. Well, I'm only now realizing that you are reading comments on more than one platform. So most of the comments are from TikTok, which makes sense because I think I've got 160,000 followers on TikTok. I've got a few coming in from YouTube. The Real Dave, people concerned about AI and war military. Spoiler, all big companies are at it. Microsoft, Amazon, Oracle, Google, Apple, Nvidia, Cisco, IBM. Yup. It's just that OpenAI stuck their head above the battlements the other day. And people realize like, oh, this stuff is being used for war. It's like, yeah, no shit. This is why the supply chain risk is so threatening to Anthropic. So being labeled a supply chain risk means that no government departments can deal with Anthropic. That's bad. They're going to lose revenues from that, of course. What it also means, there's a potential knock-on effect here of guilt by association. So anyone who has contracts with the government, if they then deal with Anthropic, they're dealing with somebody who's been blacklisted. So that means companies, all of these companies who have government contracts, government defense contracts, Microsoft, Amazon, Oracle, Google, Apple, Nvidia, Cisco, IBM, them doing business with Anthropic will potentially have blowback effects on them. So they will distance themselves. And in the case of companies like Amazon has about $8 billion invested into Anthropic. So what happens there? Interestingly, after Anthropic put down their red lines and said, we're not crossing these lines, and got listed as a supply chain risk, Amazon said nothing. There was a lot of chatter from a lot of different companies. There were, in San Francisco, an open letter was signed by the heads of lots of CEOs of lots of AI companies, tech companies. About 50 people from OpenAI signed it as well. Amazon said nothing, despite having $8 billion invested into Anthropic. Being one of the largest Anthropic investors, they were absolutely stumm. And that's because of the reputational risks of being connected with a blackballed company, basically. But they are all doing it. So again, this the narrative of, oh, Anthropic are the good guys, it's a little more complex than that. Raspberry Pi, is that a microprocessor or something? Raspberry Pi is just, it's a little computer. There we go. Raspberry Pi 5, it's about 80 quid. So it's basically a tiny little computer. So you can use it for very interesting things. I just bought something. So this one, I just bought it yesterday. I should know this. You can use it for like little hardware devices that you need a computer to power them. I mean, you could also run Doom on it or whatever, but generally you'd use it for devices that you just want to have them running by themselves elsewhere. So the thing that I just bought, I've totally forgotten the name of it. It's like a digital badge. You'll see it soon, I think. Here we go. The Badger 2040. This is not the one. P. Moroni, I have purchased to do this. The Tufty, a smart interactive badge with a color 3-inch TFT display, powered by a Raspberry Pi RP2350. So this is a little badge, and what I'm going to do, what I'm hoping to do, is when I do my short form videos, I'm going to have this mounted on my microphone, and I'll be able to put little animations on it. Really, really cool. But this is powered by a Raspberry Pi, for example. So whenever you need a little microcomputer to run devices like this, Raspberry Pi is one way to do it. And there's a really big kind of movement and community around developing these uses of Raspberry Pi, and they're just very cool projects. I highly recommend checking one out. You can get like kits. Go Raspberry Pi starter kit from the Pi Hut. That'll give you a little case, charger, a little memory card, and then you can build stuff with it. Yeah, I highly recommend if you want to spend a weekend playing around with stuff. What's Claude? What's it? You guys are all asking each other, answering each other's questions, which is awesome. Can I reference a 1000-page PRD document using Claude Code? Free plan failed, large file. I mean, how large is that file? Yeah. So the context, you're going to hit a context window problem. Context window is 1 million. Have they? Did they increase? Yeah, it's still 1 million. So Opus 4.6 is a 1 million context window. There's talk about the new ChatGPT, the next ChatGPT, having a 2 million context window. But this is always going to be an issue. So it depends how many. I mean, 1,000 pages is a lot. You probably need to chunk it. You probably need ways to deal with it. But again, talk to Claude about that. Say, hey, I've got a 1000-page PRD. I understand that's not necessarily going to fit in your context window, or you're not going to be able to deal with that in any meaningful way. What are the options? What are the chunking, or what? How can we break it down? How can we, condense it so that you can still refer to it? Or you build it into a system where it can draw on it when it needs. So you could potentially build it into a skill that is referring to it as almost as a database, and it's going and finding the information it needs. But yeah, your context window is going to be the big issue there. What do you do? Add software to the Raspberry Pi. Yeah, it's got a little operating system and you can install software. But now you hook it up to Claude Code and you can have it create custom software for your Raspberry Pi. Really, really cool. Visual Studio Code, Kyle, what's your take? I don't use VS Studio. I use Cursor, but Cursor is a fork of VS Code anyway, so I just prefer it. But they're basically the same thing, same as anti-gravity. They're all just the same thing, based off Visual Studio Code. However, that one is free, so that's always a good reason to use it. Quantum saying, yeah, have Claude break it down and import a YAML. Yep, 100%. Break it down, because 1,000 pages is just going to be a lot for any AI to deal with at a time, without it filling in the gaps, without it losing context, without it basically making a mess of it. Yeah, you could potentially do RAG, but talk to your AI. Say, this is a problem I'm having. How do I deal with it? Lyra, did I miss the Claude Code info? Yes, you did. I have been psyching myself up. This is how I introduced it at the beginning. I was like, I don't want to do this. This is this is too intimidating. However, Lyra, I did. This is very basic. So basically, how you get started with Claude Code. I will do additional ones on how you actually set your projects up, how you best use your Claude MD file, how you plan, talking about deployment, expansion, using backends, etc. I'm going to talk about all of that later, and skills, MCP. God, there's a lot we can talk about. What I talked about today was literally, hey, this is how you get access to Claude Code. Use the desktop app. This is how you connect it to GitHub. What the hell is GitHub? And then we built a very crappy little Space Invaders game. So I think, Lyra, you're okay, because you're already using Claude Code on daily. Plus, everything's going to be on the YouTube as well. Yeah, Lyra, you're fine. You're ahead of this. I'll move on to the next bits next week. But just getting this out of the way has been intimidating. I didn't want to do it. Awesome. Thank you, guys. I've been yapping for a very long time, and I'm going to hop off. Thank you. If any of you do use Claude Code based on this live, please tell me, and tell me what you think. Tell me if you run into any difficulties, and show me what you build. I'm particularly excited with that. If you are not already subscribed, head to aiwithkyle.com. You'll get the updates. So when we edit the presentation I gave earlier, which was about Claude Code, if you weren't here, that will be edited, turned into a nice, tidy YouTube video. I'll also give you the slide deck, so you can use this, and a PDF run through, a guide of how to actually do it step by step. That will all be in the newsletter tomorrow on Friday. So make sure you're subscribed, totally free, aiwithkyle.com. And I will, this is for you, Lyra, and for the other people, I will 100% be doing more complicated parts of Claude Code, like how you start to use it for real projects, how you deal with problems, how you start to scale things up, how you get things ready for production, basically, without everything exploding in your face, which is always going to be a risk. We'll talk about them in later presentations, but I'm hoping for now this is enough just to get people started with Claude Code. Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, awesome. Thanks. I'm just starting to use skills. Skills are great. I'll do a whole presentation on skills, honestly. Really, really cool. Next week. Cool. Thank you, guys, and have a lovely rest of day.